So, being against fascism is apparently a terrorist organization now. If you oppose fascism, then you are a terrorist, at least according to the arbitrariness of what it means to label Antifa as a terrorist organization. This is the most absurd fucking thing that I have heard of in the news for a long time, and that's saying a lot. Like, we know what goals the Republican Party has turned out to be, and we know it wouldn't be long before the entire left, on a broader scale, we're targeting for, censorship, as we've begun to see with that late night host that was removed. What was his name again? What late night host removed? Shit, I just forget. Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel. So it started with right-wing cancel culture, coming back. Them saying that, them creating lists of people who did as little as say that, I disagree with Charlie Kirk's politics, but don't think he deserved to go out like that. Like the most milquetoast stuff, and they were targeting all of them to get fired from their jobs. So it started with this McCarthyism basic stuff, and now it's labeling anti-fascism as a terrorist organization. The crazy thing is, Islam, as much as they hate Islam, they haven't even gone this far with that because we fought many wars in the Middle East over people's radical Islamic ideologies, and yet we wouldn't declare like Islam as a terrorist organization because of course it's so broad that it would the social reaction to that and the implications of persecuting every Muslim to that extreme level would be unspeakable, at least in this time. But I wouldn't put it past them to declare Islam a terrorist organization some point in the future when it's convenient for them. But this is where we're at in a society, and I just have to ask this one question: if opposing fascism is terrorism according to the government, then what does that make the government? And it's so arbitrary that they can just say that anyone is Antifa if it's not really an organization. And of course, there's people who are memeing about it, Liberals and the far leftists celebrate these violent thugs. They're just good old boys, hanging out on a beach grilling, That's what the Germans were doing. I am pleased to inform many USA patriots, hatriots, more like it, as David Pacman would put it, that I'm designating Antifa, a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster, as a major terrorist organization. I'll be strongly recommending that those funding Antifa... Funding what? Funding people who oppose fascism? It's so ridiculous, with the highest legal standards and practices, right? And of course, more maiming. Or maybe a couple reminders. Yet everyone should be Antifa, that's right. And there was one particular post that I thought was kind of funny. Brian Grasstein. Oh, he follows me? He follows me. Holy shit! Alright then! I just not saw that. Wow. Okay. Yeah, if you think that I'm gonna be arrested for posting this, then you already believe that we are living in a fascist state. It means I should definitely be posting this. Yeah, I am Antifa, meaning that I am against fascism. All Americans should be. Antifa is not an organization. True! We're all saying. I would check to see what all the retards are saying about it, but, excuse my language. I'm not offended by the word. I didn't cancel the word. I'm not really on the left, but, I'm libertarian, but, I say the word. I'm gonna go to my other account, which is block list. Well, and you'll see what they're saying about it. If I search it then, it's gonna show. Oh, it looks like No, it looks like the progressives and the free speech fighters are actually taking up the discourse on this. It's kind of funny. Kind of funny. I'm literally only following fascists, and they're not talking about it. They're just talking about, they're just cry bullying about the Charlie Kirk shooting, as usual, and not the Trumpstein files. But we get into the history of Antifa. We can clearly see that it's an ideology. I mean, just like Islam is. And of course, you have that. It's based on actions that you take as an individual. Mutual aid, not distributing water, harassment. Of course, I mean, to the extent of harassing fascists, big whoop, but, and then there is political violence, you must, for a disclaimer, you had, one must disavow political violence. But it's anti-fascism, It's an anti-racism as well. Political movement in the United States. It consists of decentralized array of autonomous groups using non-violent direct action or violence to achieve their aims. Okay, so I'm not going to speak too much on the violence, but I will say this. It is not an obligation of the oppressed to mourn their oppressors. Like, Charlie Kirk and among many other conservatives have been killed in the past, as a result of the culture of hatred that they stoke, and the people fight back. And we're going to see, you will see terrorism rise as a result of state-sponsored oppression. But it doesn't mean that anti-fascism is explicitly, MacGyvered IEDs and shit, and like Molotovs activities. I mean, Antifa has gotten pretty rowdy, but for the most part, not to the extent that the Proud Boys, an actual organization which has committed hate crimes and terrorism against minorities, has not been labeled a terrorist organization. Of course, especially not by the people that Trump is propping up when he pardoned all of the J6ers, which of course included many Proud Boys. Okay, let's see. Scuffles broke out. 11 people face criminal charges. One member of the Proud Boys encouraged others to fight the faggots wearing black that won't let us in. And, sure wasn't there a shooting involving the Proud? I can't remember. Roger Stone. Alright, 2019. The 22-page Violent Extremism in Colorado, a reference guide for law enforcement. The callers was released. The organizations discussing the Proud Boys under the white supremacist extremism. Court reported blah 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 blah. Content issue warnings about the Proud Boys. Taunting soccer fans. Stick terrorism rally. Anti-BLM. Gang assault. In 2019, 2 Proud Boys were sentenced to 4 years in prison for attempted gang assault. No surprise there. Decent to a 23 Asbury United Methodist Church incident, criminal charges against Tario. Tore down and burned a Black Lives Matter sign that had been raised by the church, committing vandalism against people. U.S. Capitol attack. Yep, they were involved with that. San Lorenzo Library storming. Let me just search real quick. Portland, Oregon, March. Antifa anti force used threatened force by spraying marches and shooting random people with a paintball gun. Oh, okay, so it was just that. So yeah, there I haven't seen many like actual terrorist attacks from this group, but and they're just a bunch of shitheads. You know, I mean, on the right side that terrorized minority groups. Although, we do know that right wing extremism is overwhelmingly, is represented in terrorist shootings. What percent of right wing? What percent of terrorist shootings are right wing? Right. Yeah, it's over 75%. Over 75%. Because they're into the replacement theory, and I would say that's a majority of them. The fragile white boys who are concerned that they're being replaced with Muslims and Hispanics and all that nonsense. Us and first let's respond
Okay,
to
lots of news
this
to cover
bullshit.
today. Some breaking news today coming out of the White House. President Trump on Wednesday saying that he's designating the left-wing anti-fascist Antifa movement.
And of course, all these clapping seals are livid about it. Time to purge Portland and Seattle. Stock up the popcorn. Fly an Antifa flag, wear masks, set fires, and throw stuff. That's them. We don't negotiate with terrorists. Major Spider-Man pointing the Spider-Man meme
as
very
a
much.
terrorist organization. The president taking to social media saying, I am pleased to inform our many USA patriots that I am designating Antifa a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster.
Lawson, really, the question I have is how are they going to designate Antifa as a terrorist organization? One of the things about Antifa is it is, as you said, a movement. It is a bunch of disparate individuals, small groups, if you will.
Here comes the
that do
rationalization.
actions under the banner of Antifa, which is short for anti-fascist, and they've been around for well over a decade or more. They've been, very active. If you recall what was going on with the federal building up in Portland, Oregon, that was a lot of folks that were there protesting, doing damage to the building, all the stuff going on there, did so under the Antifa banner. So my first question is, how are you going to do that? The other question too is define domestic terrorism versus terrorism per se. So this is saying, well, I'm designating them as a terrorist group, but I don't have a body.
And you can have terrorists who work under the name of Antifa or anti-fascism, just like you can have terrorists who terrorize under the name of Judeo-Christian values, restoring Western civilization, great replacement, but of course, the extent neither of them are terrorist organizations, just like Islamists aren't necessarily working under a terrorist organization unless it's for the Muslim Brotherhood. Is that an actual organization? I'm not sure. Is the Muslim Yeah, it's a Muslim Brotherhood is a Sunni Islamist organization founded by Egyptian Islamic scholar. Okay, so yeah, you could say that the Muslim Brotherhood is a terrorist organization. I mean, it's very clear they will kill you for being gay. They terrorize people like hell. Yeah, but and I will admit that just being far right, doesn't make you part of a terrorist organization. However, you can be a terrorist motivated by far right ideologies, just like far left ideologies, like tankies and
Body of
such.
federal law which defines what a domestic terrorist group is as opposed to an international terrorist group. He's already kind of gone out there and designated the cartels, the drug cartels, as terrorist groups. So they're
And those are actual groups. Those MS-13,
Narco
et cetera, et
terrorists.
cetera.
But this one, I have to tell you that I mean, it's making a statement for sure, and it probably will focus resources and investigative resources at.
The cogs are turning. The turning are cogs for, like, literally. And not to mention that if you were to talk about actually inciting terrorism, this motherfucker Brian Kilmeade from Fox was basically said that we should execute the homeless, for that the mentally ill are homeless people to get them off the street. And he kept his job. Meanwhile, Jimmy Kimmel, lost his for pointing out the hypocrisy that Trump wasn't actually that sad about Charlie Kirk and was just using his death as a political weapon. But it's for clarification. Look at that little evil smile.
One of Fox News' biggest names is now apologizing after he made a shocking comment about killing homeless people.
The way it has to be now.
Or involuntary lethal injection or something. Just kill them.
And like they didn't even flinch. They didn't even flinch. The guy here was like, yep. And well, I don't know. You gotta see a look in his eyes a little bit like, oh damn, are we going there now? I don't know. And I don't know what was going on in her mind. But yeah, he let out this fucking chat GPT ass apology.
Now, to stop these kinds of attacks by homeless, mentally ill assailants, including institutionalizing or jailing such people so they cannot attack again. Now, during that discussion, I wrongly said they should get lethal injections. I apologize.
And he even admits it, and this motherfucker still has a job. Now, all Jimmy Kimmel had to do was suggest that minorities should be killed instead of, mocking, some mild, hypocrisy on the right. It's actually brainworms. And I could go into that whole bit about, the hypocrisy and the double standard with cancel culture now because the conservatives have power. But this is where I'm gonna end this video. Antifa's not a terrorist organization. They're not the real terrorists. The terrorists are terrorizing democracy right now. They're trying to send immigrants into concentration camps. They want to put the LGBT in mental asylums. Broadly, they want to designate the entire left as terrorists. And they want to continue stoking the flames of hatred and weaponizing their own trauma and cry bullying and into oblivion. It's ridiculous. And I think we'll be lucky to see a midterms or another election, from the way this is going. It might have a resemblance of a democracy with a Putin style, like, we vote every 4 years, but we know that one party is in charge. But yeah, it's getting pretty